Hi English literature enthusiast. Are you preparing for TRB English exam? Then these MCQs are for you. I have created 100 MCQs on Epithalamion by Edmund Spenser. Let's dive into this topic. Who wrote Epithalamion? Edmund Spenser. In which century was Epithalamion written? 16th century. In what year was Epithalamion first published? 1595. Epithalamion was published alongside which other Spenser work? Amority. What is the general meaning of the word Epithalamion? A wedding song. For whose wedding was Epithalamion written? Spenser's own wedding. Who was Spenser's bride? Celebrated in the poem, Elizabeth Boyle. In which country did Spenser's wedding take place? Ireland. Epithalamion is considered part of which literary tradition? Classical in origin. Marriage song, Epithalamion tradition. Which classical poet is often cited as an early model for the Epithalamion form? Catullus. Spenser is most famous as the author of which long allegorical epic? The Faerie Queene. Epithalamion was written near the end of which reign? Elizabeth I. Spenser's sonnet sequence that precedes Epithalamion in the 1595 volume documents what? His courtship of Elizabeth Boyle. What language or style is Epithalamion written in? Early modern English. Which of these best describes the poem's overall occasion? A wedding day, dawn to night. Epithalamion is often read as combining which two traditions? Classical mythology and Christian devotion. Spenser was associated with which circle of Elizabethan writers and patrons? The Sydney Circle. What form does the companion sonnet sequence to Epithalamion take? Amority sonnets. Which of the following poets later wrote a well-known Epithalamion, partly inspired by Spenser? Gerard Manley Hopkins. Spenser's wedding day, as reflected in the poem, is generally associated with which time of year? Midsummer, around Saint Barnabas' Day. Structure and form. How many stanzas does Epithalamion have, not counting the envoy? 24. What follows the 24 main stanzas of the poem? A short envoy. Final stanza addressed to the song itself. What is the poetic device by which stanza ends with a repeated or varied line? Refrain. The number of long lines in the main body of the poem, excluding envoy, is widely noted by scholars to symbolically correspond to what? The number of hours in a day. Many critics argue the poem's stanza count and structure encode a symbolic calendar based on what unit of time? The hours or daylight of the summer solstice. What is the dominant meter of Epithalamion? Irregular stanzas mixing iambic pentameter with shorter lines. What rhetorical or structural device shifts the refrain's wording as the poem transitions from day to night? The refrain changes to reflect the change from outdoor daytime echo to nighttime silence. What kind of poem structurally organizes events in chronological order from dawn to the wedding night? A processional hour-by-hour ode. Next question is, which literary device describes the poem's habit of invoking gods and personified forces? Example, muses, hours, echo, apostrophe. The poem's short final stanza, which means envoy, differs from the rest chiefly by lacking the refrain and instead offering the poem itself as a gift. What does the speaker call the poem itself in the envoy? An ornament for his bride in place of other gifts. The poem's structure has often been compared by scholars to which kind of classical composition due to its stanzaic proportions, a musical or liturgical hour-based composition. What is the general term for a poem written to celebrate and bless a marriage? Epithalamium. Which of these best describes the poem's narrative voice? First person grooms Spenser as speaker. The poem opens by invoking which figures to help sing the wedding song? The muses. What does the speaker ask the muses to help him do at the poem's start? Compose a song to honor his own bride. The refrain in the daytime stanzas typically ends with an image of the woods echoing the song. Next question is, in the nighttime stanzas, the refrain changes to reflect absence of echo or silence appropriate to night. Epithalamion is written predominantly in which rhyme pattern type? A patterned but somewhat irregular rhyme scheme varying by stanza. What is the effect of the varying line lengths within each stanza? Musical, song-like variation, mimicking an ode. Meant to be sung. Which figure of speech is prominent in phrases like the woods shall answer and your echo ring? Personification of nature. The poem is often classified alongside the amority as part of what kind of sequence? A courtship to marriage sequence. What poetic technique describes addressing the sun, night, or river directly as if they could hear the speaker? Apostrophe. The poem's structure moves the reader through which sequence of events? Walking the bride, procession to church, the marriage rite, feasting, and the wedding night. What does the poem ask time or the sun to do near its structural midpoint? Slow down or not linger too long so night can come. Next question is, which goddess is invoked to bring the bride's fair features into being? Venus. Which god of marriage is invoked in the poem? Hymen. Which river is addressed and asked to be still or pure for the wedding day? An Irish river near Spenser's home. The bride's eyes are compared to what in the poem? Stars. What natural creatures are called upon to help deck the bridal bower? Nymphs of the woods and waters. What virtue alongside beauty does the speaker prize in his bride's inner character? Modesty and inner virtue. Which goddess of the moon or night is invoked later in the poem in relation to the wedding night? Cynthia, the moon. What does the speaker ask Cynthia, the moon, to favor given her own mythic love story? A fruitful, blessed union, since she too knew love. What bats are mentioned as part of the joyful wedding morning sounds? Larks, thrushes, and other songbirds. The speaker asks that ill omens such as which bats stay away from the wedding? Screech owls and other bats of ill omen. Next question is, what deities are asked to bless the couple with fruitfulness? Fruitfulness means children. Juno and Genius and related fertility deities. Next question is, which goddess associated with childbirth is specifically invoked? Juno. What time of day does the poem's action begin? Dawn. What does the speaker urge the bride to do at the poem's opening scenes? Awake and rise to prepare for her wedding day. The poem describes damsels or maidens performing what task for the bride? Adorning her with garlands and helping her dress. What natural imagery is used to describe the bride's blush, modesty at the altar? Comparison to snow and roses. Which body part feature of the bride is compared to unstained purity described among a catalogue of her features? The blazon. Her heart or mind, inner self. What is the term for the poetic catalogue that describes the bride's beauty feature by feature? Blazon. The speaker complains that as they process to church, the day seems to move how too slowly. What does the speaker ask the son to do as evening approaches, since he is eager for night? Hasten to sit. Who or what does the speaker ask to God or bless the marriage bed? Household gods and protective spirits, example genius. What does the speaker ask evil spirits, hobgoblins, and damned ghosts to do on the wedding night? Stay far away and not trouble the couple. The poem envisions the wedding night as free from what disturbances, fears, storms, and evil omens. What classical or astrological image concludes the poem's hope for numerous offspring, a reference to filling heaven with new stars, their descendants? The poem repeatedly personifies which natural element as an audience or participant in the wedding via the refrain, the woods or forest, which echo the song. What do the young men or boys do as part of the wedding day festivities described in the poem? Ring bells and shout for joy. What does the speaker ask of the priest or ministers at the altar to bless the couple solemnly? Which sense is especially emphasized in the description of the wedding feast? Music, bells, singing, hearing, or sound. The poem describes the bride's eyes as being modestly cast downward due to what? Bashfulness or modesty. In the envoy, what does the speaker say the poem will serve as given the wedding's haste and lack of other ornaments? A substitute for other bridal gifts or ornaments. Themes, devices, and interpretation. What is the central theme of Epithalamion? The celebration and sanctification of marriage. Sanctification of marriage. Which theme connects the poem's classical mythology with its treatment of marriage? The blending of pagan and Christian or sacramental views of love. What does the recurring refrain primarily reinforce structurally and thematically? The passage and marking of time throughout the wedding day. Which theme is emphasized through the poem's many prayers for offspring, fertility, and the continuation of family lineage? The poem's movement from public ceremony to private wedding night intimacy reflects what thematic shift from communal celebration to personal or private union? What technique does Spenser use when he lists many deities and natural forces to participate in the wedding catalog or list technique? Enumeratio. What does the imagery of unstained brightness and purity throughout the poem symbolize? The bride's chastity and innocence. Spenser's poem is notable for merging autobiography with what other mode? Formal, ritualized poetic convention. What is the tone of the poem? Overall, joyful, celebratory, and reverent. Which literary device is at work when the speaker asks abstract forces like ours and is to prepare the wedding chamber? Personification. The poem's careful attention to time, dawn to night, reflects Spenser's broader interest seen elsewhere in his work in structuring poetry around calendrical cosmic order. What does the speaker's plea for the sun to set quickly reveal about his emotional state, impatience, and eager anticipation for the wedding night? The prayers to ward off evil spirits and ill omens reflect what common early modern concern folk beliefs about supernatural threats to newlyweds. What does the poem suggest about the relationship between physical beauty and inner virtue in the bride? They are aligned, her outer beauty reflects inner goodness. The poem's blending of Irish setting with classical or mythological references shows Spenser adapting classical convention to his own contemporary and local context. What is the envoy's description of the poem as a goodly ornament suggests about Spenser's view of poetry itself? Poetry can serve as a lasting, valuable gift or monument. Which of these best explains why many scholars view the poem's 24 stanzas as symbolically significant? They may mirror the 24 hours of a summer solstice day. The poem's careful invocation of both classical deities and implicitly Christian ceremony church priest reflects a fusion of Renaissance humanism and Christian tradition. What emotion does the speaker express about the length of the wedding day itself? Frustration that it feels long and he wishes it would pass faster. Which of these is a major reason Epithalamion is considered a landmark in English poetry? Its formal innovation and rich blending of personal occasion with poetic convention. What does the poem imply about the role of community? Friends, maidens, youths. In the wedding, the community actively participates in and blesses the marriage. What is the effect of Spenser directly naming himself or his situation rather than using a fictional persona in the poem? It gives the poem an intimate autobiographical authenticity. The poem's final image of children becoming like new stars in heaven reflects a hope for a legacy that extends beyond the couple's own lifetime. Overall, Epithalamion can best be described as a richly structured, mythologically dense wedding ode celebrating Spenser's own marriage. Why is Epithalamion still studied today? For its poetic craftsmanship, symbolic structure, and influence on the marriage poem tradition. With this, 100 MCQs are over. After learning the poem Epithalamion thoroughly, practice these MCQs. Only then you will be able to understand. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Until then, stay tuned with this channel for more updates.